Welcome to In Data We Trust, the podcast where data isn't just numbers, it's the heartbeat of global supply chains. I'm Priya Thinagar, and every week we dive deep into how data, AI, and analytics are shaping the way goods move, decisions are made, and businesses thrive. If you're passionate about where technology meets supply chains, you're in the right place. Get ready to unpack insights, hear real-world stories, and meet the innovators transforming supply chains with the power of data. This is In Data We Trust. Let's get moving. I am your host, Priya Thinagar, and with me today is Abhijeet Singh, President and CEO of Texera. Texera provides supply chain solutions and enterprise services to North America's largest retailers and third-party logistics companies in the areas of omni-channel fulfillment, warehouse management, labor, and supply chain execution. Welcome, Abhijeet. We're thrilled to have you on the show with us today. Our audience is definitely in for a treat.
Thank you, Priya. I'm so happy to be here and share my thoughts. Thanks to you for providing the platform for me to connect with the audience.
Absolutely. Abhijeet, let's start off by learning a little bit about yourself, your family, like what do you do for fun? And tell us about the company. Hopefully all your fun is not just the companies.
Absolutely. Sometimes it does feel like, is it for real? Like, I still can't believe that we have a company running, knock on the wood, in 2 months we'll be completing 8 years. So the family is growing, the extended family is growing with Texera. As far as my background goes, I'm almost 20 plus years now in supply chain technology. I was blessed to be in supply chain tech. I still remember back in the time in 2002, 2003, I had to tell people what supply chain means, thanks to the advancement now that everybody understands that. But then I was fortunate to start my career with one of the greatest institution of supply chain, which is Manhattan Associates. I learned not just how to write a software for supply chain, but also learn how to take that software out in the industry and what do you do out of that software. Software part was I came to realization that writing the code was 40 to 50% of it. The another 50 to 60% was the application of that. I was fortunate to spend the first 7 years of my career at Manhattan in their R&D, where I got the exposure to understand the ins and the outs of the product. That gave me the understanding of why writing a product is so valuable, as opposed to just going out and then providing a generic service. And then after first 7 years in R&D, I moved to their professional services group, where I was implementing the same product. How many people, you tell me, get that opportunity? So frankly speaking, there was no reason for me to leave Manhattan. But then what I realized was that there are things which I wanted to do for my customers, for the fraternity in general, where Manhattan had its limitation in terms of it's a well-established organization. So of course, for an individual, they will not change the norms. So I'm like, am I better off stepping out and then doing something on my own, where good or bad, at least I'll have a fair share of chance to solve some of the problems. So that was the reason why I stepped out of Manhattan after 12 plus years of my career, and in 2017 started Texera. I did not start Texera thinking that one day we'll be where we are, because as Steve Jobs has said, you can only connect the dots looking backward, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. And I'm a firm believer of that. Our customers have given enough information that if we try to solve some of these problems, try to identify a pattern, what problems are they having in the industry, and then let's try to solve those problems either through our consulting and advisory services or writing our own solutions. So it's a combination of that. So that's where I feel like that's one of the very unique offerings we had at Texera, is like a boutique shop, because when we provide a solution, we are including our advisory, our knowledge of our past lives, and then at the same time, we are also offering our solutions to fill in any of the gaps which some of these big giants have not filled it yet. So the combination what you offer to the customer is a very unique solution, and they love it. I started my Texera journey with my customers from Manhattan, and they welcomed me with both hands. They didn't just give me that for free, but they at least gave me a seat at the table. I feel like that's very important, how fortunate I was to have the seat at the table where I could come and talk about my solutions. So that's where the journey started. In fact, the person who trained me when I was at Manhattan is working at Texera today, and the person whom I trained fresh out of college is now managing my India office. Located in 3 countries. Atlanta, Georgia is our headquarters, and we have a huge presence in Bangalore, India. And as earlier this year, we opened up an office in London. and that office is growing strong as well.
Great to hear your story, Abhijeet, starting from the product journey. I call it eating your own dog food, being able to take what you built, dreaming up ideas and solutions, and then you put it to test, and then you're like, wow, this is slightly different than what I thought, when I was building. So you've got that unique experience of bringing both your, product experience as well as the consulting side of the house and being able to, turn those ideas and being able to implement them with customers. Very rare to see. So you talked about the London office. What got you to thinking about opening an office in London?
Absolutely, and I love London. That's for sure. So at the fifth year mark, we were doing pretty well in North America. Some of our customers are in Japan, so we were covering that market as well. But then for a long time, a lot of our customers had been asking, hey, do you have a presence in Europe? And talking to some of the fellow entrepreneurs, everybody is like, there is a huge market for supply chain, and they look up to companies from North America because we are a little bit advanced when it comes to supply chain technology. Europe is a market you should be looking at. We narrowed down for London for multiple reasons. The London community was very welcoming for entrepreneurs from outside of the country. The norms were a little bit favorable for companies coming from North America and for a startup like us. So got a lot of help from the city in establishing the office, finding the place and things of that nature. And maybe a week into coming back, I keep getting phone calls which had the country code of London, of course. So I was like, maybe we just open an office, somebody's trying to, get in touch. And when the same number came in like over a period of 2 or 3 days, I'm like, let me just pick up once. When I pick up the phone, the lady on the other side says, hey, this is the office of the mayor of London speaking. And I'm not sure what frame of mind I was. I said, oh, by the way, this is the office of Joe Biden on the other side. And then she chuckled. She was like, I understand you think that it's a prank call, but here is our, the endpoint. Check there. We are the London office, and we are helping and promoting companies from North America come and set up an establishment here. City helped with a lot of those things, making London our home for the Europe region. So that's the London story.
How many people get called from the mayor of London? It's wonderful to hear the support system that entrepreneurs are getting these days.
So much more awareness of giving a space for us where small companies can thrive.
Let's shift, Abhijeet, to trends. Things that I've noticed. I was working with a startup a year ago. They're tackling a really interesting problem of trying to provide delivery services in places that don't have an address. So this founder grew up in the Bedouin region. In a lot of the Bedouin villages don't have addresses, but they still want to get food delivered to those locations. So he was leveraging AI, was utilizing maps and places of interest. Every time they went to a place, they would mark a place of interest and a location, and would try to map the next location in relation to this previous location that they've captured. Not just in the delivery space. I'm also seeing some of the logistics companies invest in digital twins so they can look at an A/B testing. Want to change delivery windows, or I'm adding new delivery zones. How does this impact my overall supply chain? In the space that's near and dear to you, like on the routing space, there's definitely a lot of new things that were not possible previously. Obviously, a lot of predictive was possible previously, but I think there's a lot more innovation that's coming out in that space around, routing, rating algorithms and things like that. Tell us what you're seeing in the market. What sort of trends are you seeing in the overall supply chains as you speak with your customers, as you speak, with your networks as well? Share with our audience, what's that space like? It's a very complex space. So, tell us a bit about what you're seeing and hearing.
Absolutely. I'm seeing it all. I must say this, though, we are in the best era for supply chain. I know for all the wrong reasons we remember COVID. One of the good reasons we should be remembering COVID is that accelerated a lot of innovation focused into supply chain. Like a lot of awareness was created during COVID time frame, and that innovation hasn't stopped. Few areas which I do want to touch on in terms of where I'm seeing a lot of traction these days. One is like you talked about the digital twin concept. It's coming up big in supply chain because now the supply chain is so dynamic in nature that today is not same as yesterday and is not same as tomorrow. And back in the days, if you would remember, most of the retailers would have one peak season. Thanksgiving, rest of the year is like an even flow. But now, if you look at customers, my first peak is in November, my second peak is in somewhere in March, April, and then we have a back to school. And even the normal volume is almost as big as peak volume. So a lot of these things are forcing the retailers to come up with innovative solutions. So you touched on the delivery model. Couple of years ago, UPS and FedEx were at capacity. They stopped taking packages from customers. But then everybody felt a need that we need some innovation in there. Can we do parcel carrier diversification? That became the thing. Like for the last 2-3 years, every customer I talked to, going regional, how can we quickly onboard a new regional carrier? So parcel carrier diversification became one of the big trends in the industry and continue to be so. Now, if you look at the last year itself, there are so many smaller parcel carriers have popped up that UPS and FedEx have changed their strategy. Like they have taken a U-turn and they're going back to the customers and trying to win the customers. Second, if you look at our fulfillment centers, historically, even up until now, most of our fulfillment centers are operating on a waterfall methodology, meaning the orders have dropped, you release the orders to the floor. Once you have released, you are reacting to the output of that wave. Like, okay, how many pickers do I need? How many packers do I need? Do I take the orders to VAS? Do I have e-com? Like different flows and all. So that's what I call as a waterfall. More and more customers are coming and asking, what are the best orders to release to the floor? Not once released and you try to optimize. A lot of optimization tools. Like, hey, here are 100 orders which we have released. Let's optimize that. Let's optimize your picking. But I don't want to optimize my picking. I want to look at my picking density first and then come back and say, hey, I want to pick those orders because these orders are going to give me the max pick density. So that trend is coming up. And so far, I can tell you, even the greatest of WMS do not have that functionality built in. Can you look at my fulfillment center and what I call it a constraint-based fulfillment, because I have certain constraints in the DC, use those constraints to decide what my best order pool is. Third one, which I feel is like the lean automation or robotics. Solutions like AutoStore, they are making big news for all the right reasons, like the space consolidation, the picking efficiency. People want to work with the robots. It's so much faster. Error rates have gone down. One of our key customers, Northern Tools Plus Equipment, when we did the AutoStore implementation with them, and I was doing a post-audit walk on the floor, and the best feedback I received from the supervisor in that area, his associates from other areas are coming and asking me, when can we be trained to work in this area? We want to work here because we see this as a career growth. It's so much brighter here. Life is so much better in this part. So to me, what I told Northern Tool is that to me, that's a successful project. One of the things which I'm also noticing and seeing is a lot of these customers are becoming conscious about their supply chain footprint. So sustainability is going to be a big...
I hear a lot too about sustainability.
Packaging, how am I using reusable components and tying its sustainability to also taking it to post-purchase experience. Earlier it used to be, how is your purchasing experience? And now it's post-purchase experience. When a box is delivered to you, are you seeing a half box fill and a half as a dunnage or things like that? Presentation is important. So I have a customer where we're doing a greenfield implementation, and the COO of that company, Crisera Brands, in the calls, is so particular about customers when they open the box to have a wow experience. We want to give them the white glove service.
Couple of follow-ups, Abhijeet, from what you said. One, how was your peak this year?
So peak was awesome. Peak was better than previous year's peak. And I spoke to some of my customers. Their peak was better than theirs. There were emails, there were high volume questions back and forth, but the systems were held tight because again, one of the things is like a lot of customers have become conscious of the peak volume. So they're taking steps getting into peak.
Preparing, right? Preparing for
Not
peak.
reactive anymore. It's like being proactive, what kind of load are we expecting? It's a better peak in terms of numbers, but it's much more stable peak, I would say.
Right. Couple things that resonated for me as you were talking about, like all the innovation that's happening in the supply chain space. How much of this as a reflection of the change in customer behavior? Not only are the retailers getting smart, they want like continuous optimization. I want to real time, optimize. I don't want like a static wave anymore, right? Like I don't want you to like plan everything for me up front. I just want this to be more dynamic. I think Manhattan, calls it auto streaming, more real time, waving or, operations that you can prioritize certain orders. And I feel a lot of that is geared towards that customer sentiment and the customers really pushing the retailers to the edge. Maybe it's the dawn of, Amazon and others. How do you see that customer behavior change that ecosystem and the industry, obviously for the better?
A lot. Almost all of it is driven by the customer behavior. If you look at it, a lot of trends, what the retailers are asking for is because of the changing consumer demands. People are no more happy with just buying a product. The post-product experience, when I walk into the store, how am I being treated? Like on how the packaging is done. So minute details like that. And not just that, returns is underrated until now, where a lot of customers will shop on Amazon because policy are so user-friendly. So people underrate that, but returns has a big impact on customers. They're like, let's just buy it, we will return it. It's so much easier. I'll drop.
The consumer is driving that
Exactly.
convenience aspect.
So now, back in the time when your package ships, you have a tracking number, and every time you go in and then punch in the tracking number and see where the package is. So tell me if something is delayed, when it's getting on the truck, all the way up to when we will arrive. So you are constantly communicating with the customer. Point in time, whether you are in the warehouse, when the packages are moving, those updates, when it is picked up by the carrier, when it's on the truck, what time it is being delivered, all of that the customer wants to know that.
Right, yeah. I feel, the last point that you hit on was the robotics, where one of the warehouses, you had a robotics implementation and how different departments were saying, when are we going to have this? I drew a parallel to that, Abhijeet, with AI and data wave, where I think there's a lot of angst around, are people going to lose their jobs? What are they going to do? I think what the point that I think most of us are missing is that obviously we want to do it in an ethical fashion, but I think it is also upskilling, up-leveling the employees in the warehouse, and they're super excited to innovate, learn something new, and also excited about the trajectory of how it changes their profile. It was encouraging to hear that story, to see some of those same trends apply in the AI space as well.
Absolutely. I mean, 100%. I mean, I would say 200%. You need to take your people on board. You need to tell them that this is going to help them grow their career and upskilling, like exactly you pointed out, and this is going to be for their betterment. Same thing with AI and a lot of these algorithms too. Like supply chain, I feel that we are the early adopters of technology, whether it's like online shopping, online ordering, or blockchain, or AI. However, coming to the practical use case of that, it's already embedded in supply chain. Everybody wants some predictability in their supply chain. Otherwise, you are more reactive. I was talking to some of the warehouse supervisors. Supervisor said, at 4 p.m., my last pickup is there, and I'm struggling. I have orders in the pool. I don't know if I'll be able to do that order. I don't know how many people should I be putting to complete that order, or call my carrier to come at what time. I am just blindsided. I know how many orders I have, but I have no data beyond that. So taking that data and putting some variables like what is the last pickup, how many people you have, and then coming up with the prediction at this rate, with these many people in that many order, you are probably going to be done at 5:30. Or, hey, if you put more people in this area, which is constrained right now, that you will be able to do at 4 p.m. So they will then be able to proactively adjust the plan and then be able to operate under the SLAs. Today means today. The customer is paying a premium price for that. So that's the trend. At Steve Madden, when I'm talking to the CIOs and the Chief Supply Chain Officer, Steve Madden was very particular. Like, my last pickup is 4, and all of this needs to come out of the Geek system. They use Geek as the robotic.
Okay.
Right. So now you go figure it out. At this rate, you'll not be able to do this, or you need to put that many more people. So things like that is where you will use all the algorithms. The AI and ML evolve within the 4 walls. And then, of course, like when you go on Macy's.com site, what you see as upsell and cross-sell is not the same I will see as upsell and cross-sell. Personalization is also one aspect of where AI and ML is greatly influencing the buyers.
Yeah, that's true. You're talking a bit about personalization, a lot about data, AI, the tools for a warehouse worker to do their job well. Tell us, what are you doing in that space? How are you helping your customers today? I know you won one of the awards at NRF last year for the showcase of the product. What's happening to that product this year? Are you going back to NRF?
Absolutely. So at Texera, we have a product department. From the time when we started Texera, coming from a product background, one idea was always there that if we cannot come up with our own solutions, then we cannot fully solve customer problems. So from the get-go, we had this product department, and the very first use case, almost all my customers would ask, the drivers don't want to sign 15 pages of bill of lading document when they are picking up the load, and it's tedious. We have to sign, and then somebody has to scan it, file it, record it, and then 6 months later there is a chargeback. So somebody is going into some dark room, pulling the file cabinet. So that's where this idea of a platform called Omni Distribute, and there is an app on that platform called XBOL. So the concept there is it takes the bill of lading document from your source system, which most likely always is WMS, creates a VIX compliant PDF version of that document on the tablet, and then it provides you an option to do a digital signature. It became a lot more popular during COVID. We could remotely send a text to you on your phone. You can sit in your truck, sign it, return back, and then I can, as a shipper, I will sign it. So it helps you with the digital handshake there. What it also helps is we often talk about proof of delivery. Then in the last 3 years, the trend has also shifted to proof of departure. Like the chargeback and the compliance industry is a big cost center for a lot of companies. So their point is how can we challenge these chargeback? We provided a camera feature in there where while loading your truck, you're palletizing and you're labeling and all of that stuff, you can take a picture, which is all associated with that one bill of lading. And all of that is digitally stored in cloud. So that way, the document can then be shared automatically or on demand, printed, which we don't recommend because we are digital and sustainability. And that can be even sent to the carriers and customers as per their demand. Now, with that product, when we showcased at NRF, we received the Startup of the Year award from NRF on that product. And then we went on to receive the Green and Sustainable Supply Chain Award from Supply Chain Demand Executive Agency. Every customer of ours has implemented that, whether it's Columbia Sportswear, Steve Madden, Famous Footwear, Northern Tools. Almost all of our customers are using that digital bill of lading solution.
Okay. What's next for the digital bill of lading solution? What are you investing in that product?
So where we have extended that is we have created another niche app alongside that, which helps with that journey. We call it X-Track. We launched it last year at NRF, and this year that's our hottest selling app on the Omni Distribute platform. And what it does is it solves parcel diversification problem we talked about earlier, where every parcel carrier is a connector to this app, and then it connects one time with your WMS or your shipping system, and then exposes you to all these parcel carriers for their labeling requirement, for rating, for routing, things of that nature. So it enables customers to onboard parcel carriers in weeks. Yes, 2 to 3 weeks.
What would it take them previously?
So a typical customer for a typical parcel carrier is anywhere between 3 to 4 months.
Okay, because that's gone from 3 to 4 months to 3 to 4 weeks now.
Yes, exactly. And then
that's awesome.
With the whole certification piece also out, because we are calling the carrier APIs directly and getting the data.
Are you demoing that at NRF this year?
Yes, we are. What we have also done is that same application, it also solves the problem of dynamic routing is a big problem in the industry. It does a very similar approach there also, where it takes the data from your shipping system, which is the WMS or any shipping system, and then it exposes you to different retailers, whether it's JCPenney, Amazon, basically sends them the dynamic routing information either as an API or EDI 753, gets back the information at 754s, and then pushes back to your shipping system and creates a load for you. When we launched it this year, most of our implementations have been that way. I have signed 2 contracts already with some of my existing customers, where they want to implement dynamic routing and parcel carrier diversification with Amazon.
So what sort of feedback are you getting from the product? How engaged are your customers? How is that feedback process between you and your customers? And how does that facilitate your product journey as you think about how you're building these products and what sort of features you're building into the products?
Great question. So I've been asked this question multiple times that when you started the product, do you have a formal sales team? Do you have people who are building your products? Fortunately for us, so far we have not needed that. The reason is we have used our consulting customers or implementation customers as the customer for products. So we have reached out to them and here is the growing problem we are seeing in the industry. Is this a problem for you as well? And they're like, yes. And then I'll talk about the idea what we are building, and here is when it will be ready. A lot of them are ready to sign up before the product is launched.
Okay.
So, and what we are also collectively doing, by the grace of God, we have a lot of customers. So it gives us the perspective of different customer base. I'll tell you one great example is almost all my customers kept talking about slotting as a big problem, especially when you add that with robotics. It's your most expensive piece of real estate. So you don't want to be keeping dead SKUs in there. Multiple customers kept talking about that problem and there was not a really good solution. Can we write something? And I understand it will take 6 months or 8 months. Let's write something simple which solves their need. And again, that became one of our fastest selling application which customers are implementing. Yes, I mean, like everybody wants that.
Yeah, I think it's good to have that partnership. Like, you're not having to go do like a product market fit because you've already seen the themes and the trends that these customers have, and building something that meets their demands. And I think you're a growing startup, so you probably have a lot more nimbleness than a large organization that might have other priorities and either larger items for them to tackle as well.
That definitely helps us, though. Not trying to sell them a product, but trying to solve their problem.
I think as technologists, it's so easy to fall in love with the solution because, you're already thinking about how great the solution is going to be or how great this AI and the data is going to be. And I think it's just that walking the floors, understanding, the customer's problems, exactly. And then coming back with something where, they're saying, when do I sign, right?
When I talk to the VPs, when I talk to the floor workers, I mean, the needs are very simple. It's how you orchestrate that data is more important. Like a lot of times there is data available. 10 years ago, data was not there, I understand. But now everybody has data. But then what you make out of that data is the more important factor now. So people have data, but they cannot understand, like, exactly. So orchestration of data in today's world, if you look at TMS as an example, it used to be as a planning engine. Now more people buy TMS as more of a visibility platform. That's how the trend has changed. That's where the consumer behavior, call it customer behavior, retailer behavior, things are changing. Orchestration of data is the most important thing.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of power in the data, power in providing solutions on top of the data. One of the things that I hear as I'm talking to some retailers is, we have all this data, like you said, they don't know what to do with the data. A lot of them have grown through acquisitions and other ways. And so the data is not in a sort of a clean state. And so even the smallest of report is a nightmare for them to pull.
Exactly.
Do you see a little bit of that as well? I think there's probably a continuum.
So one of the approach, and I think you touched on, is a great point with our product, where our customers love that is what we are doing is we are taking data from discrete systems, like multiple systems. And the very first thing, it takes the data and then translates and then sends it to the destination. We do it little differently. We first take the data, consume it into our system, and then we normalize that. Because the normalized data is what the industry needs. So once you normalize the data, then you can do wonders with that.
Then the sky is the limit, right? Transformations, you can do reports, you can do dashboards, you can do, a lot more intelligence, right?
Last year, what a thought crossed my mind. We have all this normalized data for 7 years. What do we do with that? So we came up with a sub-department under a product called Emerging Tech. I want to call it Emerging Tech very specifically because I have customers' data. Now, what do I make out of this data? How can I apply the MLs and algorithms, AI on this, and then make some sense? Give them the predictability they're looking for, give them the constraint-based fulfillment they're looking for, give them the slotting engine what they're looking for. It's all in the data, right? So that's where that department is so focused on those tasks. Our heavy focus is on that constraint-based fulfillment we talked about.
Okay.
Once it comes in the market, that will be a game changer for a lot of our customers.
Excited. I will keep an eye on that product getting released. Is there any time frame? Abhijeet,
we are targeting May-June timeframe for that.
Tell us a bit about your secret sauce. Obviously the customer is a big part of this ecosystem. You talk about your relationships and how those have been garnered over the years, and how that have become support systems for you. Tell us, what else is your secret sauce? When you and I spoke, you talked a lot about the women on your team. They run your organizations. So tell us a little bit about that, and how hiring ties in, how talent ties in, and I think you hit on autonomy when we were talking about. So tell us about that secret sauce of team building and team culture.
Great question. I would love to talk about. I can go on and on this topic because I am what my team is. Where do I start? So let me start with myself first, right? So I'm not sure if you've watched the show Everybody Loves Raymond. So at Texera, people call me Raymond. Everybody loves me. So I am the Raymond at Texera, and that gives me the flexibility. I gave you an example, Troy Hollenbach, a veteran from Manhattan. He was the one who was our mentor at Manhattan, and he is at Texera. If you go on his LinkedIn now, He says, Texera for life. This is my poster, like, this is my retirement company. And then if you go back on the India side, Deepak Bhandarkar, who is a fresh graduate from college, whom I hired, he's managing my India office, and he's Texera for life. So I feel like between these two extremes, that sums up my relationship at Texera. Like, and I feel a lot more responsible, I would say. I was making this statement in the town hall in India last week that I personally have become a lot more giving ever since I started Texera. I was not this giving, it's because of the love I get from these people. I feel like I'm responsible for these families in making sure that not just salary and bonus and things of that nature is definitely part of it. I'm not talking about that, but I'm more talking about like their professionally and personally their career and their lives progressing well. And I'm not just only giving them professional advices. I'm their go-to person for personal advices as well. Like what should they be doing? How should they be looking at their personal path and things of that nature? So that's basically what sums up my life at Texera. Coming to women empowerment, right? You know, I always use this phrase, America runs on Dunkin'. My statement is Texera runs on women power. So the Iron Lady of Texera, Kavita Nulu, she is again a long-time veteran at Manhattan, closed her eyes and followed me here. And I can tell you there is no other Kavita Nulu in the world. You know, what she does is magic.
Totally agree. Yeah, no.
A lot of Texera's growth is a testimony to what she does day in and day out. Similarly, if I move to India, my head of operations, my head of emerging tech comes from a prestigious TCS organization, and she was a half Apple employee there. The career was very bright for her. She trusted Texera, and it's again a funny story. The first time we met, we didn't even have an office space in Bangalore. So it was a Saturday, and Deepak, who is managing the India office, bribed somebody and got a small office which was not working on Saturday, a conference room. So from there to here, trusting us that we are an organization where we are. Now she's the head of operations, head of emerging tech. Up until very recently, she was heading the products also from India.
Oh.
So one of the things you look at Texera is like, we just don't say for the sake of saying, but if you ask the women here, they feel they're a lot more empowered. They have a seat at the table.
Yeah, it feels like you organically brought the right folks, good joints with the good, and greatness comes out of it. So it feels not just for women, but looks like you've got a very empowered organization. I remember you talking about autonomy and folks being able to make decisions, because I think more than money, more than like titles and power and all of that stuff, I think at the root of every human being is, do I have that autonomous decision-making power where I can, support a customer, they've got the best interest of the customer at heart, and how do I just make that autonomous decision? And does my organization provide that support? And it felt like, from our conversation, Abhijeet, that you've got a good sense of, having that autonomy and, empowered culture. You're hiring really well, right? It all starts in hiring, even when you're, finding the right candidates. And when you have a good team, then, you've got the ability to trust them,
Thank you so much. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I was on a prospect customer call day before, and then also Northern Tool had the exact same question. They said, we have a twofold question. A, how do you hire such talent? Because everybody at Texera is better than the other in a positive way. And then more importantly, how do you retain the talent? And then I said, I don't really have a scientific answer to that. But the long and the short of that is like you inspire people and you empower people. If they fail, let them fail, and you encourage them. My philosophy is if you got to fail fast so that you can get up again and then you can try again, right? Don't be afraid of failure. And my leadership team, my one statement to them is be fearless. It's okay to fail. I have failed so many times, you don't see that.
Yeah.
Learn from others' mistakes too, because life is too short to learn from your own mistakes. That empowerment, that encouragement, and then keeping them at Texera, I'm very transparent to them. They see the integrity in me. And same culture is what I'm instilling into my next level leadership. My job is done when you guys are Texera for life. Now your job will be done when the people reporting into you are Texera for life. So it's a chain event. You guys will have to make sure your team has the same bonding for you, and keep inspiring them. Lead from the front. People will always respect you when they feel you are the first one to hold the sword and you are in the battleground before asking them to get on the battleground. Like when COVID was at its peak, I had one of the persons saying, why don't you send your employees? Why do you go everywhere? If I sit in the office and then I send my people there, I'm not leading from the front. I have to be there, then otherwise it does not sit well that I am asking them to go out, but when I am sitting here. So again, I feel they respect that, they value that, and the bottom line is everybody loves Raymond for that. One common theme in Texera is like they all love me. I'm insanely blessed to have so much love, abundance of love. When Troy joined, the rule of the thumb was I will never be the boss. He's the boss and he will be called boss. So entire company calls him boss. And I'm the guy who runs the company where he works. We had that understanding. So being grateful to people for what they have done and learning from them has been one of the constant theme at Texera. So we are at that junction where in 2 years from now we'll be completing 10 years. So it's super exciting. I think the next year is going to be more focused on the emerging tech. We are going to invest heavily in AI and ML and expand footprint in London slash Europe. And at the 10th year mark, it's a crucial junction for us to understand where do we go from here. Like 0 to 10 is here, now 10 to 20, what does it mean for us? So that's where the next 2 years is going to be focused on. We will be at NRF and then followed by NRF, we'll be at ProMat. Definitely stop by our booth, look for us, reach out. We'll be more than happy to engage in any conversation, talk about some cool stuff, what we are doing and brewing. And in March of this year, we are exhibiting in London conference. So the first time we are exhibiting in London, where a lot of supply chain teams from different parts of the country will be there. So if you happen to be there, more than happy to say hi and grab a cup of coffee with anybody who is interested. Thank you so much, Priya, for having me here. It was awesome conversation. I'm a kid in the candy shop when people talk about supply chain. That's how I feel. And once again, the closing comment, I want to thank the institution of Manhattan Associates for making us the individuals who we are today. So thank you. Bye.
You've been listening to In Data We Trust, the voice of a world where precision, speed, and insight define who wins. Every decision, every movement, every success starts with a hidden truth in the data. If you find something powerful today, subscribe, share, and join us as we decode the future of supply chains. Until next time, trust the data and keep innovating.